Welcome to Guerrilla Sports Off Field. I'm Liv Moods, and shortly we'll be joined by Krisztal and Nate Jackson. And this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. So just head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hey,
Welcome in.
hey, welcome in to the latest edition of Off Field, the January 6th edition of
Wow.
Off Field.
That's
We're
crazy.
storming
the Capitol. No,
In this case, you're going to storm Buffalo, Broncos
yeah,
country.
we're a playoff team. Can you
Yeah,
believe
I'm
it?
Liv Moods, and that's Liv Moods. Sometimes
Hey.
people call him Nate Jackson. They call me BK. but
Occasionally.
we all like to channel our inner Liv Moods when we are driving the show. The reason I was caught off guard was we were listening to Sean Payton's conference call, which was supposed to start at 10 a.m. Got pushed back all the way to just a couple minutes before 11. You understand that. Get ready for a playoff game.
Of course.
The good thing about the scheduling gods is nobody knew when they were playing until right around the start of the Sunday night football game.
Mhm.
And right as you were getting off air and I was recording just kind of a recap,
Yeah, we found out.
saw that it was Sunday at 1 and 1 Eastern, 11 o'clock. While that's early, and I'm sure he's talking about their adjustment schedule-wise, they at least get the same normal amount of prep days. There's nothing extra. There's nothing shortened because a bunch of 4 teams are like, nope, you're Saturday. So get to work. You lose a day. Before we get into all that, just knowing that they're now turning the page, how good is it that they don't have to change their schedule? Coaches are on their Sunday, Monday night game plan, Wednesday practice, Thursday practice, Friday.
I think it matters. I mean, the East Coast stuff does suck a little bit. They're probably going to go out Friday, right? That's the Sean Payton.
Or
Somebody's
Thursday.
at my house. Sorry, guys.
That's your ring. That's
Yeah,
your ring
That's my
camera.
ring doorbell.
Who is at your house?
PF
I
Chang's?
Delivery
actually
man?
don't
Yeah,
know.
PF Chang's?
Maybe no, not PF Chang's. Stay away from PF Chang's. Guys.
Whoa. All right. That's
Um,
a way to
well,
eliminate
if you
one
door-
advertiser.
like PF Chang's is one.
Right. Sorry. Just right now, it's not.
No,
It's
but
good.
I'll
It
say
can go
PF
great.
Chang's is one thing, but door dashing PF Chang's. How long? When was it made? 2
Right,
hours before
right.
you ate it?
Yeah.
Like,
If you guys are
Made in
confused,
China?
we had some food poisoning at my house last night into the wee hours of the morning.
yes.
And when I was live on the show last night, I kept saying like, yeah, I'm just not really feeling very good.
Yeah.
It was
Liv
the
was
PF
playing
Chang's.
hurt now, and she is playing injured.
Yeah, I'm on
or
IR.
Yesterday playing hurt, today
Yeah.
playing injured.
Yeah.
And the PF is like a white guy named like Paul
Paul Frank.
whatever. Yeah, it's just some white dude.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't think the Broncos are going to be eating PF Chang's this week. I think they're going to be taking care of
their
their
P's and
bodies.
Q's.
They will be able to get to go through a normal schedule. They'll leave on Friday, and
We
then they'll
assume. Probably.
what?
But they at least practice their normal
Yeah, yeah,
schedule.
yeah,
But we
yeah.
assume they're leaving Friday. It's a good guess.
I thought you asked me a question. I was trying to answer
Please do.
it. But before we get on to the matchup, BK, can we just talk about the game?
And that's what I have. That's what I have right here.
that's what I'm saying. Like, and this is a huge matchup, and the Bills are a huge test. But like Marvin Mims talked about basking in it for about a couple hours, and maybe we could do it for a couple minutes because it was nice to send the Chiefs home with such a bombastic L, even though they played so poorly. Do you think they cared at all about this game, Liv?
No,
I mean,
I don't.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, there was the narrative that was floating about whether or not this Chiefs team was going to intentionally lose because they
Right.
didn't want to see the Bengals. Now, it's a fair narrative because I don't think any team really wants to go head to head against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase right now, playing at such a high level. But I just think Andy Reid is too good of a coach to intentionally lose a game. I just really think that we got to see how important the starters are for Kansas City, which for any team, really. I mean, you have the second stringers in there and you don't expect the same type of football, but I mean, they looked bad.
Yeah.
I was expecting a little more.
I
Well,
was too.
where I'd sort of gotten to, and then I brought this up a couple times, I think maybe on Fox 31 Friday morning, it reminded me of the preseason game against the Packers, where you saw a good practice on Friday. But when that game started and the Broncos, I think maybe were just up 10-0 until they started pulling starters or 14, whatever it was. You're like, if this went on for 4 quarters, it would be a bloodbath.
Yep.
And there's a reason you have starters and backups. And when we always hear next man up, and the Broncos have been remarkably healthy the last 2 years, especially compared to some of the other years. I mean, you were here the year they went and grabbed Tatum Bell out of the mall where he was selling cell phones because y'all were down to your 7th running back or whatever it was, I believe. But they've been healthy. Nonetheless, a single backup going in with a bunch of starters is way different than all the backups playing at once. And I think we realized why Carson Wentz is firmly a backup these days.
Yeah.
Although Carson Wentz with all their starters and with a normal complement of running backs and Xavier Worthy and DeAndre Hopkins might have looked a little different. But yesterday it did look like JV versus varsity.
Carson Wentz also spent a lot of time lying horizontal in that game. Our defense gave him a pretty hard time.
Yeah, Nick Bonito had a couple sacks.
Yep.
Jonathan Cooper had one. Both of them get over 10. Both of them have double-digit sacks after no one has since 2018. So it's just like shows you how much the tide has changed here, and things are happening here in Broncos country that haven't in a long, long time.
Is this, in your opinion, both of your opinions, a championship level defense?
Oh yeah.
Could you win a championship with this defense?
Yeah, they're third in defensive scoring, and their offense has been certainly better. They finished as the 10th best scoring offense. It helps when you get 38 yesterday. The offense, it's kind of feast or famine, and we touched on it a little bit last week with their 3 and outs. And when it's going well and the drive's clicking, it does end in points. But there's been way too many 3 and outs since week 13, especially.
Right.
But just enough offense shows you that whether it was Vance Joseph and Joe Woods calling this defense, or Vic Fangio, or Ejiro Evero, who is not only it's his birthday today, but he is keeping his job in Carolina. We can get into all the coaching changes later.
Did you call him and wish him a happy birthday?
I haven't yet, but maybe I will.
Did you get him a gift?
No, but it didn't show up on my phone. I was like, okay.
Why did it show up in your phone?
I don't know. I think
is he in your phone?
Yeah, but I'm guessing it comes with his contact. Maybe
I don't know. You don't send him. Are you gonna like if on his Facebook wall like HBD?
No, I doubt it. But I might. Look, he's keeping a job, so good for him. Meanwhile, the Jets are interviewing all other coaches. Every time we look up, Jets have requested so and so. We'll get.
Except Hackett's keeping his job in New York. So
I'm not sure this time. Although Aaron Rodgers, did you see his quote post game? We're not going to spend more than 10 seconds on this, but post game they said, "Hey, people close to you say that." What he goes, "There's people close to me." Like that surprised him more than anything.
That's funny.
He's a bit of an enigma.
Yes, he is.
No pun intended.
He did say that it's been the best 2 years of his life. I heard him say that his time in with the Jets,
and you can learn all about it in Enigma Part 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming next season.
But the defense has been good year over year over year. Whether you go back to Super Bowl 50, and then the last year with Kubiak in 2016, defense was solid, and that it helps that you had a Hall of Famer in Von Miller, a Pro Bowl talent in Bradley Chubb, Pro Bowler, guy who led the league in sacks, and Shaq Barrett, guys like that. Obviously, DeMarcus Ware, but as they've now shifted to these young guys, they're going to have, we think, maybe the defensive player of the year.
Yeah, was Von Miller ever defensive player of the year?
He was not.
Wow.
It seemed like JJ Watt.
So
getting it.
How did this happen with PS2? Because we've seen him play all year and he's played great. But how did all of a sudden he kind of leapfrog everybody and become the favorite with 4 interceptions? Nothing crazy there.
I think honestly, because right behind Pat Surtain right now is TJ Watt. I think at like plus 170 if you're a betting person. So it's still technically it was a close race before the last game of the season. And so I really think it was anyone's award at that point. I think it was pretty close between TJ Watt and Pat Surtain. But I think honestly that the Steelers kind of did a 180. It felt like their defense really did a 180 a few weeks back. And obviously then there was conversations about the culture and what's going on over there. And everyone's kind of looking, I don't know. I think that there was.
So I talked to one of my I have a birdie. I have a Pittsburgh birdie. And
what'd your birdie say?
And this BK doesn't even have this one. I mean, BK is gonna be like, wow. So the thing that there was the disarray on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is because Patrick Queen, who's the linebacker, he wears the green dot and it's too much for him.
Oh, and he comes in first year from Baltimore, right? He's new to the.
So the green dot is like you have the speaker in your ear, and so the coach is telling you the defense, and you got to tell everyone and get everyone lined up.
And he's a first year on Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's been with the Steelers and with the Ravens, and Roquan Smith had it the last couple of years.
And so the green dot is so the communication's been bad. So he's like, he's unsure of it, and he's trying to get guys lined up. They like to do a lot of disguises, and so they're breaking their huddle too late after the offense is already breaking the huddle because he's having a hard time getting out of his mouth and getting guys lined up, and then they're trying to disguise it, and then by then it's like they're out of position, and it's all because and the man in the middle is maybe not geared to have that responsibility, even though that's what the middle linebacker has to do. He's pretty much always the green dot. Sometimes they make exceptions, put a safety, but the guy in the middle should be that guy,
right?
And so they're having a hard time with that. It's not like Russell Wilson's causing everybody to like.
But that's what the media would love
Right.
for it to be.
Right.
That's
It's
why
a communication issue on defense.
Well, and that's also one thing I just like that kind of makes me think of first of all, grow up. I'm not playing this game anymore. Sorry, guys. I'm about to get to why I said that. The tweet that I tweeted in 2023, you guys are like digging it up, which to be honest with you, I stand by most of what I said. I said I felt like Russ was the fall guy. Sean was not innocent in how that season played out. I still stand by that because then we watched Russ go to Pittsburgh and cook, which it was kind of exactly what I was saying. Now, the part of my tweet I disagree with is that I ended it by saying the Broncos just set themselves 5 years back. Okay, I was wrong about that. But in that moment, it kind of felt that way. It kind of felt like with the money that we had left and the way that things were shaping out, I wasn't sure what we were going to have. So yes, I take back the 5 years back situation. I don't really take back what I said about Sean or Russ, but just because I criticized this team in 2023 does not mean that I'm not excited about where they're at right now.
You're not alone.
So everyone grow up.
Liv, you're
honestly.
not alone in making that criticism.
I'm
And the odds makers in Vegas had the same sort of feeling when they put the Broncos at 5.5 wins. Nobody thought the Broncos were going to turn, except fans and enthusiasts of the Broncos and believers or believers.
Of course.
Didn't think that they'd be able to turn around with a $53 million cap hit and, a team that seemed
there was
to
a
be
lot of things going
very
wrong
young
last
and
year.
inexperienced. Exactly. So I think it's defied a lot of the logic of smart football people.
Well, and it was pointed out again. I talked to somebody with the team about where they are. The expectations have changed. But if we would have told every single person in Broncos country that they'll be knocking on the door against a bad Chiefs, against a backup Chiefs team that isn't playing for anything, for a chance to get to the playoffs, every single person in Broncos country in August would have taken it.
Oh, yeah.
But then they were essentially eligible for the playoffs because they had played so well,
Mhm.
and they're beating the Chargers. They're in it with the Bengals in Cincinnati and that high-powered offense. Now everyone else is at Bo Nix raised the expectations. The defense
He
continued to
surpassed
play.
expectations.
Right. Cortland Sutton returned to Pro Bowl form that we haven't seen in terms of production since 2019.
Yeah.
And when you look at going over 1,000 yards and the young
getting
players
his
around him,
bonus.
and Marvin Mims figuring that he did get, and the O-line playing really well. We haven't talked about a good O-line as much as the team was successful with Peyton Manning. They always had a problem at right tackle. And then beyond that, it was
Not always, right?
Well,
they had Orlando for a couple of years. He was pretty solid.
Yeah, and then they let him walk to go to San Diego.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. After that,
yeah, and after that, and before that, it was a
revolving door.
It was, and after that, it was like Menelik Watson and Jawan, and we could just keep going, and they kept getting it wrong.
Yeah, they tried to get the right tackle, but they got the wrong tackle
a lot.
Hey,
and so they'd be good in spots, but so the O line, so they exceeded expectations, and thus Broncos fans remembered what it was like to have a higher expectation of your team. But when you look at Bo Nix, so there's a lot of things. $90 million in dead money is what the total ended up being, because they also cut Justin Simmons and that it wasn't just Russ, but they took the bigger chunk of the Russ money this year. So it ended up totaling $90 million. So their salary cap this year is $90 million less than a team spending the max this year, the 230 or whatever that number is. And then a rookie quarterback.
And that's why PFF had him as the worst roster in the league.
Yeah, but
I just think we need to do away with not being able to criticize your favorite team. Like there is a world where I can still criticize what's right in front of me, and then later on I can say, wow, this is great where we're like.
Yeah, your opinion changes with new evidence, right?
Right. To be honest with you, I just match the energy of what my team is giving me. And at the time that I tweeted that, the team wasn't giving me a whole lot to work with. So there was frustrations, and that's what I was expelling on my Twitter. I just think we have to do away with the narrative that you always have to be blowing smoke up your favorite team.
And the keeping receipts thing, when people find an old tweet.
Like, okay, first of all, go
give
dig
me
it
an
up.
update on this.
Right. Bookmarking this for next time.
Yeah,
okay, go ahead. Like, I'll probably be dead wrong because I cannot tell the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a future teller.
Nobody can.
Anyway,
if you could win a lot more money.
Right? I'd be a lot richer.
Like Back to the Future 2, you have never heard of it, you've never seen it, but the premise of it is Biff goes back. This old guy Biff goes back in time and gives his younger self a sports almanac with all the results
from the future.
So from the future.
Oh my God.
And
we
so
would be filthy rich, wouldn't we?
He becomes
filthy rich.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they actually predicted the Marlins winning the World Series in '99 or whatever. It was the Miami baseball team or whatever.
You predicted it?
No, the book and the movie that came out in the
movie.
late.
That's kind of cool.
And they didn't even have a team at that point. So they were predicting that Miami, not only did they win it, they got the year right. So the defense we knew how good they could be. We see how good they are. But the rookie quarterback, because it is fair to everyone's going to evaluate players however they evaluate it. But for all of Sean's kind of whatever the word, repetitive storytelling and similar kind of anecdotes, he talks about the NFL train, and he's like, the train keeps moving and you need to pay attention to it, but you'd be wise not to jump on it and then just ride it. And so what
the hell does that mean?
But like everybody's saying, oh, Bo Nix is a 6th quarterback, or there's now reports out. Lots of people have Shedeur Sanders as a 2nd round grade, whatever it may be. And that all of that may be true, but then it's easy for that just to become the narrative.
And the idea that Bo doesn't have a strong enough arm.
Right. The guy throws the ball 67 yards in the
longest
air.
throw, like the 2nd longest throw in the history of recording that thing.
Yeah.
Of course, it's only been for 8 or 9 years, but he threw it freaking almost 70 yards in the air. The guy that has a plenty strong arm. And the naysayers with Bo, it does become sort of a sport. And then you dig in on your side of it. And then the take that you originally had on someone, you justify everything you see through the lens of that take, and you want it to be your take to be right, instead of, like you do, seeing new evidence and changing your mind, because that's what we're supposed to do. It's not dig in with our takes, but Bo Nix is playing at a high level. 26-29 yesterday.
You'll take that. And man, if he hits that one to make him 19-19, and he said he wished he had that back.
Which one?
Javonte was walking into the Javonte slips because Bo kind of short armed it with the pressure. Going back to the defensive player of the year thing real quick, because I looked it up. So there's a couple of things, not just what the disgruntled nature of how they're approaching defense, but here are your top, and this isn't the only metric, but here are your sack leaders in the NFL. Trey Hendrickson's number 1 now at 17.5.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett, reigning defensive player of the year, he's number 2 at 14. Nick Bonito, saw him pick up a couple more yesterday. He's number 3 at 13.5. Kyle Van Noy, I know, had at least one on Saturday. He's at 12.5. Danielle Hunter, Houston, he's at 12. Jonathan Grenard in Minnesota, he's at 12. Micah Parsons becomes the first player since Reggie White to get 12 sacks in his first 4 years.
Wow.
So he's at 12. Then we get to our pal TJ. He's at 11.5. So I think in general,
what? Jonathan Cooper right after that?
And then Coop is a couple more down at 10.5. There's some other guys that are mixed in.
That's just so impressive, though, to have more than one
2 guy. The only team with 2. I think they ended with how many 60-something sacks on the season?
The Vikes, Grenard and Van Ginkel by the end of the night. Van Ginkel snuck one in, so they're at 11.5, and Grenard's at 12. Go all the way back to the last team that had 2, I think, was the Vikings with Keith Millard and John Randall back in.
Keith Millard was my defense coordinator at Menlo College.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So back in the day, it was Keith Millard. It wasn't John Randall. It was Keith Millard and Hall of Famer Chris Dolman were back in the late 80s.
I thought Bradley Chubb and Vaughn did it.
Yeah, you might be right. Maybe they both had over 15 or something. Whatever it was like something crazy. Either way.
He's like, you might be right. Moving on.
But how many names did I list before TJ Watt? 5 or 6. So he's not leading the league in sacks. Their defense is okay. They're not great, and that might be partly Patrick Queen's fault. They had some cornerback issues for a while. Joey Porter hurt, the other corner hurt.
Trey Hendrickson, they don't even make the playoffs.
Right, they don't make the playoffs. Their defense coordinator gets fired, so he has good numbers, but it's sort of like in fantasy, whatever. There's somebody stats to talk about it in basketball. Like someone's got to lead the Pelicans in scoring, so put them on your fantasy team. Doesn't mean that they're an all-pro kind of player or whatever it may be. And so, look, Trey Hendrickson is an all-pro kind of player, but it's hard to give him that award, just like it's hard to give Joe Burrow the MVP because they didn't make the playoffs.
And he's not that good.
And so Nick Bonito's been really good.
I'm just playing.
But
here it goes again.
I think that narrative has changed.
Don't let BK get on his Joe Burrow fanboy behavior.
With PS2, he has shut down every top receiver, and the numbers bear that out. He's had a couple of PIs early and one randomly yesterday on Juju.
I really don't mind a corner
on
my team getting PIs from time to time, but that means he's playing physical. That means he's in his back pocket. You got to get handsy with receivers, and if you don't, then they're going to beat you and create separation. So every once in a while, if a guy gets flagged, in my opinion, that means he's playing tight, and I don't mind that at all. And PS2 had a couple, you're right, but then he's allowed less than 300 yards receiving all year on him.
Stephon Gilmore in 2019, I shouldn't say ever. Charles Woodson in 2009.
Yeah.
And that's it since going back to prime time, back-to-back with Rod Woodson 93 and 94. Rod in 93 with the Steelers. Dion, the 1 year he was with the Niners in 94. And then you have to go all the way back to like Lester Hayes and Mel Blount.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like 6 times it's happened.
So and also, PS2's awesome season also a product of the defensive line that's playing really well.
Yeah.
They're putting so much pressure on. They work in concert together. The secondary's locking people down. The quarterback has to wait back there. Then he gets sacked, and vice versa. So this defense is really playing off of one another really effectively. And I was down there on the sideline yesterday, and I saw Alex Singleton walking around there, and I felt bad for him. You know what I mean? It's got to be exciting to watch, but at the same time,
but tough. Yeah.
very depressing and tough to see all your guys go on the journey without you, even if you're there with them, just to kind of have started it, have been such a spark plug and a catalyst to getting this moving in the right direction, and then tear his ACL, early in the season, and have to watch the rest of his players go on without him. But Cody Barton has played really well in his absence. And so these guys have stepped up. And to your point about, is this a defense that can, a championship type of defense? Absolutely.
I guess to add a secondary question to that, it would be, if we still see our offense just struggle in moments, I think we've seen them grow immensely over this season as a whole, but we know this offense is not perfect. We know that there are, more often than not, we don't see a complete 4 quarters from this offense. So if our offense struggles in the playoffs, is our defense enough to advance them?
I think the offense has to play well.
I agree. I agree.
You saw what happened. You mentioned the Chargers. They kind of shut down in the second half there, and you saw what happened. They didn't play great against the Bengals. They had a couple moments that were nice, but put the defense in a difficult position at the end there. And so I think the offense is going to have to play better, and they might have to find their running game a little bit better. If they play like they did yesterday, they're going to be great. 4 touchdowns for Bo, 26-29, but it ain't going to be that easy.
Right.
And typically playoff football isn't a high-flying affair. It's more of a grind it out. It's more of a defensive battle. It's going to be cold there. There's going to be snow on the ground. It might not be snowing at the time, but your running game, there is a cliche that the running game is what wins you in games in the playoffs. That's not always the case, but it really would help.
It really would help.
The Broncos
I talked about that last night before you guys joined me.
Yeah.
Well, before we get all the way to the Bills, because I want to, I reached out to my buddy Sal, who I think is going to try to join us Wednesday on Off Field. He's a sideline reporter for the Bills, does radio there, and so he's gonna join us. I'll tell you what he said about the Bills in a second. But let's finish off yesterday, because even though the team has turned the page and we're still inside the 24-hour rule, and so I think we can look back. What was the best thing you saw? It's a 2-part question. Best thing you saw yesterday, and best thing that excited you the most about the season. So, Liv, I'll start with you. What was the best thing you saw yesterday?
Oh, wow. That's kind of hard because I felt like I saw a lot of stuff that I liked, but mine's going to be maybe like I'm going to try to be different, unique over here. No, I don't think this is like I think a lot of people notice this, and Nate, maybe you can touch on this as well. I really liked how I felt like Bo was taking more risks. He was kind of playing cute a little bit. He was doing some different stuff. He was playing cute, but I do think I thought Bo's level of confidence, and I don't know, it looked like he had his wall down knowing that the starters weren't out there, and he was willing to make some passes he normally might not. He was very mobile. So I liked seeing Bo Nix show a little bit of that dog that he's got in him. Yeah. So I think he felt comfortable to do so, knowing the starters weren't playing. Again, I don't like to talk that way because that was not something that was in their control, but I'm sure they had a different mindset going into this game, knowing that.
Well, I think that they didn't know until they saw it.
Yeah, but there were conversations about Patrick Mahomes like all week long.
Yeah,
so
I know.
For Bo, mentally,
but to the extent to which because Patrick Mahomes and Bo aren't on the field at the same time, right? Obviously, he knew he wouldn't have to go toe to toe as far as scoring as many points as Pat.
That's
could.
kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, but Sean Payton did mention after the game that Bo saw the field really well yesterday, and you could see that he looked very comfortable back there. He hit Cortland on that deep ball down the sideline. He hit Devon Vele down the seam on a really nice throw. Mm-hmm. And you guys have heard me talk about the seam route and how important it is to the Sean Payton offense. And we haven't seen a ton of that. Definitely didn't see any with Russell Wilson here. But he's starting to sort of unveil that middle of the field vertical stuff. And a quarterback who can throw all those balls that way and all the lateral stuff that Bo Nix has already proven he can do, and then get on his horse and run. And when he does, it's impressive to watch Bo Nix run.
I think
More so
his-
than people are like, I think
Yeah.
it's caught people by surprise.
including
Sutton's
Sean
touchdown.
Payton.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sutton's touchdown was the moment for me where I was like, "Ooh, he's just playing like he just
The
had
first
like
one or the second one?
First
First one
only
was-
had
I only
one.
think Sutton only had
I thought
one.
had two.
No,
Mm-mm.
Marvin had.
Oh,
Mims-
Marvin had two. Marvin
Mims
had two.
had
Sorry,
two.
sorry.
Sutton's touchdown was a moment where Bo just looked. He just, I don't know, he let his athleticism take over a little bit yesterday and not so much the mental aspect of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was still a part of it, but I do think he let his guard down knowing that this was a game that they needed and should win. And they were able to do so in a comfortable way. But I don't know. I just felt like that was what I was the most excited to see was Bo Nix really showcasing to everybody just how athletic he is. Because
Yeah,
he
I think-
is very athletic.
And I think it might be revealing to us that Bo Nix plays his best in big, important games.
Totally.
And I think, aside from the fact that the Chiefs weren't at full strength, this was a game the Broncos needed or they were
Yep.
done.
Do or die.
And Bo seemed very relaxed in that role,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
something you got to feel really good about.
Yep.
For me, what I really liked seeing was Cortland Sutton and Garrett Bowles being able to experience a 10-win season
Aw,
with
yeah.
getting them to the playoffs. These guys
They
have
deserve
been
it.
through some real dark days here. Some really dark days. And then had to, flip on the TV or look at their phones and see people speculating as to whether or not they were the problem. Because there was a group of veterans here that were here through all the losing that folks on the radio, folks on television, and folks with podcasts questioned. Is he a
Yeah.
cancer? Is he bad for the locker room? Is he a loser? And, Sean Payton and company and George Payton had to come in, assess this roster, and figure out which of these veterans are not cancers, but are not part of the rebuild and which ones we believe in and want to keep around.
Right.
Garrett Bowles is one of those guys, and Cortland Sutton is one of those guys. And I just
Mhm.
feel really good for both of those dudes. Garrett Bowles just signed a huge, big deal, and so he's making a lot of money. But the
Mhm.
money, as we've talked about, is not everything in this,
Yeah.
and it's about your pride and your peers and getting the respect of the fans and everything. But also, Cortland hit that incentive as well. You remember Cortland held out in the summer and wanted more
Yeah.
money and restructured his
I think
deal.
he hit all of his incentives to get the full $2 million
Yeah.
in bonuses.
And he did, yeah. So particularly those two guys, I felt really good for those guys getting
I
the
agree with
victory.
that.
Well, and so to that end, I asked Bo Nix, and Cortland was standing there. I don't know if Bo knew that. And we asked Cortland about it, Garrett Bowles. Let's hear from all of them because it was such a big, momentous occasion. I guess big and momentous mean the same thing, but, such a big moment
It was
in
It was
Broncos,
a big,
in
double
Broncos,
big.
in Broncos history, and
Huge.
especially for those guys. I mean, Garrett 8 years, Cortland 7 years, lots of losing, lots of coaches, lots of sneezing, and now they finally get to go to the postseason. So let's hear these guys post game.
We have a really good team. We have a lot of guys that are, all competitive, all work hard. They're, close knit. We got a lot of good relationships on this team. You can really feel and, watch the love for one another that we got. Then we go out there and play for each other, play for the guy next to us. There's not a lot of prima donnas on our team, not a lot of, issue makers. And we just, we all have one goal, and that's to go out there and win for our team. And, it's funny. We kind of doubled what a lot of people thought we were going to win. So it goes to show that, there's a lot of talk preseason, but you don't have to be what people say you're going to be.
Oh, bars. Mic drop.
Yeah, well,
He really is. I don't think the non-Broncos fans talk enough about what Bo Nix was able to do in his rookie season, not just on the field as a quarterback, but the leadership and the way that
he's got that part down.
earned the respect of the locker room and earned the respect of Sean Payton. I truly believe, based off of what we've watched throughout this season, that Sean Payton fully trusts Bo Nix. And I don't think that's an easy task. I don't think it's easy to get the trust of Sean Payton and to be a rookie and to get it this quickly and to establish such a great culture. And some of that, of course, has to do with Sean Payton and the winning culture that he's trying to establish. But we're not talking enough about Bo Nix's impact off the field as well. I just think when you're young and inexperienced on this level of football and you're able to not only perform at such a high level, but also earn the respect of an entire locker room of people that have been here for a long time.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Leadership is a tricky thing.
It
you know,
is.
especially as a rookie quarterback in a locker room full of grown men.
Yeah.
You know, it's you can't walk in pounding your chest and talking about how great you are and leaning on your college career or where you were drafted or what your money situation is. Bo Nix has understood from the moment he stepped in the door that the only way to earn respect is to go to work and prove who you are and what you are on the field to your teammates. The way you prepare, the way you know, go to meetings, the way you train, the way you lift, the way you run, the way you handle yourself at the podium, and the way you practice every day. And that's what he's done. And, you know, when asked about things like, you know, he always answers it the right way.
He does.
And what he says is, I haven't done anything yet. And so what am I, who am I to say, to tell these guys what to do?
Right.
I need to prove myself. And
Yeah.
that's what he's doing. And that's why everyone has responded to him, is because he's gone about it the right way. I was on a team where, you know, we had a rookie quarterback, Jay Cutler, come in and really not know how to do it. You don't need to be someone you're not. You don't need to give
Right.
speeches if that's not who you are.
Right.
But you do have to ingratiate yourself with your team. You
Mhm.
do have to be vulnerable with them. You do have to become one of the guys the best you know how. And he's clearly been able to do that.
I think it's a fine line for sure. Like
Yeah.
you want to let people know I'm here. This is my job.
Yeah.
I'm running this offense. Let's get to work.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to step on toes.
No.
And you don't want to be too machismo that
Right.
the locker room's like, dude, sit down. Who even are you?
And you remember Jarrett Stidham was a starter when Bo got here. And he took the first reps in training camp. And Bo it was a quarterback competition, right? Even though it probably was never really a competition. But he handled that very respectfully.
Yep. Totally.
You know, and the fact that they're all friends right now is a good indicator of that.
And
Yeah.
they're all going to dinner, and they're having dinner with,
And they're
with
wearing
their
the same
significant others.
pajamas.
They wear the same. They
Adorable.
wear the same pajamas.
The wives are close. Yeah.
But here, for the folks that haven't seen or heard this, let's just, we can fire them back to back, Thomas, with Cortland Sutton and then Garrett Bowles talking about what it means to finally make the playoffs.
GB and I got to have a little moment on the sideline when the game was getting ready to be over, and you want to talk about a guy who has been through a lot, a guy who has battled through injuries, a guy who has battled through just as much as I have, and you add a year on top of it, man. But to see the joy and the light in his eyes, man, to know that we have a chance, that's all you can ask for, you know, to have a chance. And you know, it's a really good feeling to just know that we have an opportunity to extend our season, to do something special, and you know, get this organization back on track to what is known. You know, this organization is known for winning. You look on the wall and you see all of this success that this organization has had, and you know, for the past 9 years, we haven't held up our end of the bargain on the field. And you know, to be able to be in this spot where we get to continue this legacy of this season, and to potentially, you know, do something special, to get put up on this wall of past champions, it's a humbling experience.
Yeah, man, I love this organization. I really do. That's why I stayed here. I didn't want to go anywhere. I'm just grateful I get to be part of it as I, you know, come down to my final stretch of my career, and hopefully I have a lot more years to provide, which I know I do. My body's healthy and young. I just, you know, just being around these guys, and from the front office to the cooks to the janitors to every single person in the building that I just love, and they've been my family for the last 8 years, and they've seen me cry, they've seen me cheer, they've seen me sweat blood, they've seen to do that, and then just to be a part of them and share these moments with them, it's just special.
Any guy that's sweating blood deserves to be in the playoffs.
I think you might want to call the doctor for that if you're sweating blood.
Right. Especially ahead of the Bills game. We don't need you sweating blood out there. Yeah.
But that's also why we love Garrett Bowles, right? Like his
He's just
ability to
amazing.
kind of weave a sentence and just throw it out there. But he's
to be shouting
a
out all the
lovable-
people in the building,
he's a lovable dude.
down to the janitors. I mean, come on, that you
his
just gotta love to
loyalty,
see it.
his loyalty to the Broncos organization, I
Yes.
think, is one of his most admirable qualities as a football
Yes.
player. Obviously, one of the best tackles in the league. Incredibly athletic, has improved a lot over the years. Goes to bat for anybody he's playing with. Every quarterback he's playing with, he's got their back. But the love he has for the organization, and he's been here, like I said, through some dark times, and to see that through, you know, is very special. And Bo and those young guys, all in the locker room afterwards, talked about doing it for Garrett Bowles and Cortland Sutton and those guys, and being able to watch them appreciate that moment. And how much better would it feel to just go in and get a win in Buffalo?
Well, And we're going to find out in the coming days. I don't know how much extra media Von Miller's going to do, but he's certainly going to do
That's
some.
right. They're playing against Von.
And so when we were
Is he
standing there,
healthy?
yeah, he's healthy. When
Wow.
when we were standing there at his locker, though, and we don't have that clip, but somebody mentioned Vaughn, and he's like, "Look, I know Vaughn was as excited about us winning this game as we were because Vaughn is a Bronco through and through. And Vaughn does call the Broncos we a lot, so it's going to be.
They're going to be
interesting
asking him
if
about the matchup. And he's like, "Well, we're going to have a tough game against the Bills."
And they ask him,
Well, did you see his Instagram?
No, what did it say?
He posted one, I think, either today or in the wee hours of the morning when I was up, not getting rest. But he like made a series of, he said full circle, and it was pictures of him as a Bronco, and the last picture was him in a Bills uniform. It was like 4 Broncos pictures, and then the final one was him in a Bills. It was like him holding the trophy, him on the field. I mean, you could tell Von Miller's pride and joy is Denver.
No, Vaughn loves the Broncos, and look, we can't predict the future, but if there's a scenario where he's a free agent, which I think he will be after they had to restructure his deal, he would have been let go this year, but they gave him too much money as part of the restructure, and he's been one of their better players on the defensive side of the ball when he turns it on. Vaughn would not mind one bit to come play for the Denver Broncos next year as a swan song, if you will, and play his final season in Denver. A lot of people think because he spends his offseason in his hometown of Dallas that he'd play for the Cowboys too for the minimum, but that he might come here.
Would there be a spot for him here?
Well, he'd have to take someone like DeAndre Tillman's spot, essentially, but with Drew Sanders' versatility, not knowing you've got Alex Singleton coming off the injury in the final year of that 3-year deal. Cody Barton and Justin Sternad are both on 1-year deals. Their deals expire. You're not franchising those guys. Doesn't mean they won't offer them something new. That maybe there is a chance that obviously with Nick Bonito, with Coop, and we know they're going to be here for a long time, with Tillman, who they like, and with Drew Sanders, that maybe Vaughn is your 5th pass rusher, and you're bringing him back not to be your leader. Bo Nix is your leader. And I think Vaughn's still Vaughn, but Vaughn wouldn't do a weekly press conference. Pat Surtain's going to do that. And he'd let, if Court's back, those guys do it. Vaughn,
I don't think Sean,
he probably doesn't.
Love Vaughn, but I don't think Sean
probably
would
not
be into it.
Probably not.
Sean
I'm just saying,
be into drudging up the nostalgia of the past there. I think he's moving on. I think that's why Justin Simmons is gone. And
I think you're right.
I think he wants a clean slate.
I think, I think if it was Vaughn's, I'm just saying Vaughn would love that.
His choice,
Disney,
it would be his choice.
Disney. I never gave you my favorite thing I saw yesterday, but for me, it was seeing what that defense did, racking up more sacks. And so I pulled it up and it is remarkable. 84 Bears, 72 sacks the year before they won the Super Bowl. Then that Vikings team in 89. So your old coach Keith Millard had 18 sacks.
Oh, wow.
Chris Dolman, the Hall of Famer, had 21 sacks. They had 71. Then the first team was 17 games. In 17 games, the Eagles had 70 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
You got to go back to 2000. The Saints were the last team to go over 60. And then the Broncos are 14th all time, but just the third since 2000 with 63 sacks. So to see a defense, and I'll shout out Ryan McFadden from the Denver Post because I just pulled his tweet. This is the improvement of the defense from last year to this year with Vance Joseph coaching and the players figuring it all out. Last year, they were points per game. They were 27th. This year, they're 3rd. They were 30th in yards allowed. This year, they're 7th. 22nd in passing. That's 19th this year. 30th in rushing yards. 3rd this year. 22nd in sacks. 1st in sacks. 22nd in pressures. 1st in pressures. 18th in pressure rate. 3rd in pressure rate. And they're tied for 8th in terms of interceptions. That is one place where the Bills are better than them defensively. The Bills are 3rd best at taking the ball away. So Bo Nix will have to be on his P's and Q's there. But that was the best thing I saw yesterday. Do we have time to say what was your favorite part of the regular season, the thing you saw the best, or are we all in agreement that it was Bo Nix's just progression as a rookie?
Yeah, that would probably be my answer.
Is there something beyond that or because I would argue like a 1B to that is Sean figuring out how to unlock Marvin Mims and thinking about those offenses, and you talked about the seam route, but I just always think about Ted Ginn and Lance Moore and those guys taking the top off. That if Marvin Mims continues on the compared to where he was in training camp, where you had other people in town saying cut him.
Yeah. I think for me, if I look back on the regular season and reflect on what I am most impressed with or what I feel best about is just, there's a lot of there's a lot of analysis and punditry when it comes into football. What's going to work, what's not, right? Everybody has an idea about what you need to do and this and that and technique and strategy and philosophy and the type of players and free agent and the draft. There's a lot of moving parts. But ultimately, the belief that you're going to do something special together, caring about one another, having passion for the game and playing a brand of football that you can be proud of and have a belief that you're going to get it done is something we haven't seen with these Broncos in a long time.
Right.
And it's something that Sean Payton has instilled in them.
Yeah.
And so I think what I feel best about is Sean Payton getting these guys to believe again that they're destined to be a great football team.
Yep.
They won 10 games when nobody thought they were going to. They're going to the playoffs. Nobody thought they had a chance. They have a bunch of Pro Bowlers and a potential defensive player of the year, a top 5 defense, playmakers on offense, and PFF said they were the worst roster in the league. Right? That's what I feel the best about is that Sean Payton got these professional football players to stop believing the nonsense from outside and start trusting that they can be special. And we saw that this year, and it's only getting started.
They never gave up on themselves.
No.
And that was a really inspiring thing to watch this season.
Yeah.
And Sean touched on it yesterday because it was something he can get into similar talk tracks where he repeats not only stories, but kind of says the same thing throughout. And we kept hearing him talk about young and hungry can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, that now reminds us that young and hungry can be dangerous again in the playoffs. And so why don't we hear from Sean Payton as far as the last time they went to Buffalo, which by the way, they won, and what they're kind of looking forward to. So here's Sean Payton yesterday, kind of, at the end of his press conference being asked about now looking ahead to the Bills.
Man, we look forward to the challenge. They've had a great season. We're familiar with certainly the travel. The last time we were there, it felt like we were there 7 days. We played them Monday night. We got out there Friday. Our plane was delayed. But look, they're a real good football team, and that's why they're the 2 seed. And we're going to have a great week of preparation, and we'll get ready to go.
And he talked about them being out there 7 days. So I'm getting snippets from his conference call today that we had to jump off of to talk to you and do our show. But they flew out on Friday, played the Monday night game, and then did their meetings and stuff like all of that and a little bit of rehab before they were planning to get on the plane anyway. Then they were doing the media, and either Javonte Williams or Alex Singleton was like, yeah, and we're stuck here. We can't even get on the plane yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the team necessarily wanted that out, but they ended up not leaving until like 2 p.m. Tuesday. So they were there from Friday to Tuesday for the Monday night game, but it felt a little better because of the win, because of the crazy plays Russell Wilson made, because of Will Lutz getting a second shot at a game-winning field goal. But so I reached out to my buddy Sal, the sideline guy in Buffalo, and I just want to know what's the general mood there. And this is what he said, because I was like, it's easy to look ahead to, we got the Ravens on the horizon. We'll get past the Broncos. But he said there's concerns with the Broncos pass rush and their defense overall, Mims in the return game, and the way Nix is playing. Confident in McDermott against the rookie QB, where he's been great. Most good defensive coaches are good against rookie QBs. That's just law of averages. The Broncos.
But he's never seen Bo Nix before.
Exactly. The Broncos, this is not a normal rookie. He just isn't, just like CJ Stroud wasn't a year ago. The Broncos aren't particularly great running the football, which he is right about. And the Bills are susceptible in the run game, but that isn't a Broncos strength. Doesn't mean the Broncos can't find a way to take advantage. He said, obviously playing here in front of this crowd, Josh at quarterback, the team has been in these situations before. So he say they're much more confident than concerned, but the Bills fans aren't expecting this to just be an easy game, even though Vegas took it from 8.5 all the way up to 9 now.
I saw 9.5.
Okay. So 9.5, and don't be surprised if it ends up closing at 10.
Well, which is why if I'm the Broncos, I love that. I mean, this is you get to play the undercard or underdog. Nobody respects us. They think you guys don't belong here. I mean, the Broncos are almost playing with house money. They can play free. The Bills don't really have an excellent playoff track record in Josh Allen's. I don't know what his, you can look
I think
it
it's
up.
around 500.
Yeah. And, for all the waves they've made in the regular season and all the accolades and all the praise, they haven't really done anything in the playoffs.
Right.
And I also look back on my time with the Broncos, and I know it was just one season, but in 2005, we make the AFC Championship game. We play a home game here that we weren't expecting to play, but we played the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were surging, who were the 6th seed in the playoffs and had to go on the road, caught fire, came here and beat us for 2 reasons. One, they were playing really good football, but also we were tired. Well, all our friends and family came into town. You know, everybody who knows anyone on the Buffalo Bills team this week is going there to go to the game because it's the most exciting thing happening in everybody's lives right now is the NFL playoffs. And if you have a friend or a family on the Bills, you're going to go to Buffalo.
Of course.
And so you got people staying at your house. You got people wanting to go to dinners. You got ticket requests. You got all this stuff going on. And the Broncos don't have any of that. They have none of that to worry about. They can go on the road as a brotherhood and go to take care of business.
That's it.
And Mike Shanahan used to say, you know, it's the sweetest sound in the world is having 70,000 people fall silent on the road.
Ooh-wee. I love that.
And if the Broncos can do that in Buffalo, it would be very special. And I do give the Broncos a chance to win this game. I don't think it's going to be a 10-point game like Vegas has it.
I don't either. I really don't either. I think they've got what it takes to compete against this Bills team. I think what is working in the Broncos' favor right now is the timing of their momentum. We saw that the Chargers game, Bengals game. Don't worry, I did not forget about those. But I think those were those kind of losses that hurt and sting just enough to where you kind of
they didn't get their butts kicked.
Yeah, they
really did.
They
were close games. They were highly competitive games. It was, again, one of my concerns that I've talked with you guys about many, many times is I want to see this Broncos team find ways to win tough games against really great football teams. And in the Chargers and the Bengals game, we saw that was some of their most competitive football against really, really great teams. So I think those losses were very timely in the sense that kind of activated that like motivation. And then we saw it in the Chiefs game and it was beautiful. So if they can just keep tapping into the timing of all their momentum and where they're at, I think they're in a good spot.
And you look at the other playoff teams, they haven't played too many of them. Their worst game of the year, and certainly the score indicated it, but at the Ravens, that got away from them quick between the end of the first half and then how the second half started. And I know, and I mentioned it last week, talking to folks with the team, they were much more excited to go to Buffalo than Baltimore. And there's a world where they avoid Baltimore. If they can steal a win in Buffalo,
somebody can beat Baltimore.
Let somebody else beat Baltimore, and but they'll go to Kansas City.
But if they go to Kansas City and beat them,
then they might go to Baltimore.
Baltimore.
But at that point, you're riding sky high. You talk about playing with house money, then it's all the pressure on Lamar. Josh Allen has been really good in the playoffs. He's 5-5 as a team. They're 5-5. He's got a passer rating of 100. He's thrown for 2,700 yards in 10 games. So that's 270 a game. 21 touchdowns, just 4 picks. So even though Josh has had interception issues in the past, he hasn't really this year. Although he did throw more than Lamar, as I saw their stat comparison. Lamar's better than him in just about everything.
Bo's got more yards and more touchdowns than Josh Allen. Did you know that?
I didn't see that breakdown. I just saw that. Yeah. But head to head, Lamar beat him. Other than one more win, or I guess 2 more wins, 13-4, 12-5. One more win. I'm not good at math. Lamar completed a higher percentage by 3, 66.7 to 63.6. 400 more passing yards, 8.8 yards per attempt, 25 more yards a game is how that breaks down. 41 passing TDs to Josh's 28, which is less than Bo's 29. 4 interceptions to Josh's 6. So these are all Lamar being higher rating. And then on the ground, Lamar ran for 915 to Josh's very impressive 531. Now Josh punched it in 12 times, but Lamar only 4 because he had Derrick Henry to hand it to.
Right.
Yeah. So there is an argument though that Lamar did all that with a lot more weapons.
Sure.
You got Mark Andrews, you got Isaiah Likely, you got Zay Flowers, you got Rashad Bateman. Like the Bills don't necessarily have that type of weaponry on the offense. And so maybe what Josh Allen did is even more impressive. I think you could give it to either of those guys. And Saquon Barkley could be in the conversation there. Although we don't care about running backs, we care about quarterbacks.
That's my vote. Saquon Barkley. Prove it's not just an MVP award and give it to a prove it's not just a quarterback award and give it to a non-quarterback that is playing at the highest MVP level right now in Saquon Barkley.
They do have a 1,000-yard rusher, James Cook, who certainly looked better this year than he did
he's good, man.
Last year. I mean, I'm saying we just seen him get better. Dalvin's little brother goes over 1,000 yards, sets the team franchise record for rushing touchdowns in a year.
More than Thurman Thomas?
More than Thurman Thomas and more than everyone's favorite O.J. Simpson.
or Marshawn Lynch played there.
Marshawn played there as well, as did Willis McGahee. And James Cook, McDermott did some stuff just to help records. Like Josh Allen had a 114-game consecutive starting streak. He put him in. He took the first snap, handed it to James Cook, and that was it. Cook was in the game. They took him out. They got into the red zone, and they let Cook run it in to set the record and then pulled him out. I mean, I say they put him in, and the Patriots.
You wonder, like, because football, we talk about its momentum a lot and how your team is feeling and the energy. And so this idea that, what the Chiefs did by resting everybody, you wonder if that'll come back to bite them. Will it leave a bad taste in your mouth, 38-0. Would it make things better for you or worse? With the Bills, just trotting them out just to take a snap. I mean, how's this going to affect the energy of a team going into the biggest game of the year? Time will tell, but there's a psychology involved in being a head coach and trying to figure out how to best serve your team. And I know Sean Payton talked about the privilege that the Chiefs had by going 15-1. They do get to decide that stuff, but you never know how it's going to work out. And if the Chiefs were to come out, like if the Broncos were to beat the Bills and then go play the Chiefs in Arrowhead, Geehaw.
You guys gonna wear your hats that I got you?
Yeah, I'm gonna pee on it.
And then put it on your head. That's weird.
I'm gonna yak on it after I eat DoorDash PF Chang's. Ralph.
So bad. Oh,
Don't DoorDash PF Chang's, man.
not good. Not good.
What's the worst? We'll spend 10 seconds on this.
Worst food to DoorDash?
Just in general, because French fries as a whole, no one's really perfected how to keep them from.
And burgers
being
too. You don't want to eat a freaking hour-long burger.
Yeah, especially if it's a good juicy burger, but that patty and burger become one.
Yeah.
It's not the way you want it.
Pizza's pretty easy, man.
Pizza's got to be the all-time best.
Yeah.
I would say sushi.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't need to be heated up.
Yeah. It doesn't. Although you want it to be pretty quickly, like you don't want to leave it for too long, because you all know that we've all saved a good sushi meal, and the next day it's fine if you put it in the fridge and it's covered and all that, but it's not as.
My wife is not down with like leftover sushi.
Luckily I have an 18-year-old that he helps us out in that department.
I don't know. My wife's not down with leftover much of anything, actually.
Yeah.
Like,
It's so funny. I get leftovers and think I'm very confident, like, ooh, this will be so good tomorrow. I never, ever reheat stuff. And I always think I will.
Yeah.
And I never do.
You know who does it the best is like Maggiano's are like, take a meal to go.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're like, and it's already kind of pre-cooked, but
Italian is great the next day. Like
I sometimes prefer pasta.
Yeah, you can do
reheated more.
100%. Looking at the Bills defense compared to the Broncos rushing the passer, because you asked about Von Miller. The Bills are actually 8th best team in the league sacking the quarterback, but it's such a gap between the best team and their 63 sacks and the Broncos. They only have 39. I say only. They have 39. So
how many does Vaughn have?
So Vaughn is tied for second with AJ Epinesa. They both have 6. Greg Rousseau has 8. Ed Oliver, who's a beast in the middle. If Chris Jones is the best interior D lineman when he's dialed in, Zach Allen, Ed Oliver is in that same category. That's why he was a top 10 pick. And I know he's had some big plays against the Broncos the couple times he's seen them since coming into the league.
I think the Broncos offensive line underrated in all this. In all these conversations. Bo Nix has played an incredible year as a rookie quarterback, largely in part because this offensive line's been so great at protecting him. And I know Sean Payton talked about how, sacks are a quarterback stat as much as they are an offensive line stat, because the quarterback's got to learn to get the ball out of his hands, a la Russell Wilson hanging on to it and running around like Tecmo Bowl and then getting, he's sacked 50 times a season. But this offensive line for the Broncos, not a Pro Bowler on the offensive line. I think that's the fact that, Quinn Miners and Garrett Bowles not considered for that after keeping Bo Nix, a rookie, that clean all year and allowing him to operate in a clean pocket and have such a great season. I think we got to give some flowers to the offensive line of the Broncos.
100%.
So we can get more into the Bills Wednesday. That's just kind of scratching the surface. But I think the Broncos, like you said, they're going to need to play free. There's no pressure on them other than whatever pressure they want to put on themselves.
The pressure's more on the Bills.
100%. And the cool thing about the Bills, and you played there, right, in Buffalo?
Yeah.
It feels like a college stadium. We'll see with their new $1 billion stadium that keeps getting more expensive. That's why their very rich owners decided to take on Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady and a bunch of other owners to get their cash, free money to help pay for the new stadium. But it's a college atmosphere, and they tailgate early. They're out there all day. Even if it's a 1:00 game, they will be out there at 7 a.m.
They do shots out of bowling balls,
jumping through tables,
burning tables and stuff like that.
But
like the Broncos have a track record of doing well in Buffalo. I was on a team that won a couple times in Buffalo. You mentioned that game a couple years ago where the Broncos won in Buffalo. And so this is a winnable game. Sean Payton has pressed the right buttons thus far with the psychology of his team, getting them to understand the moment and come out prepared for any game that they faced. Like you said, other than that Ravens game, they haven't really gotten worked. I mean, the first couple games of the season weren't great, but I think this Broncos team will be ready to play.
Yeah, this feels like a way different team than the team that lost to the Steelers 13-6 and didn't score a touchdown, or lost to the Seahawks, who fired their OC today. So that's the final thing I want to do before we get out of here.
Some people got fired.
Well, some people got fired, and then Sean Payton was asked about Vance Joseph because Vance has been asked or requested by the Jets to interview for their head coaching job. It's worth noting the league changed it a couple of years ago. I know, we know the headache that could be.
Don't do it, Vance.
I won't be surprised if Vance not only interviews there, I expect him to interview in New Orleans as well. I don't think he'll interview in Chicago. He might in New England, although it feels like Mike Vrabel's job at this point.
He better not.
I know they're hiring Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel changed his avatar to him and Teddy Bruschi. Like,
is that what's going on there?
100%.
Vance Joseph can't do that.
He's not going to go coach the Patriots. But if you were to go to
anywhere, I don't want to
you don't go anywhere.
No.
Okay, well,
why don't you leave, man?
But so
this is a team that could win the Super Bowl next year.
And he already was a head coach, and it's like, come on, man.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, be the Spags of Denver.
Here's what Coach Payton said about Vance earlier. He said, of course, not coming up right now because they clicked on someone named Joe Vance.
Let's hear what Joe Vance said.
Yeah, what did Joe Vance say? But he basically said he expects Vance to be a head coach again soon. He's smart. He's a great communicator. He's got a very calm, I would say, strong voice. Man, his players play extremely hard for him. He's been a great addition to our staff. And he said, I expect him to be a head coach again. And he also said that coaches often do better that second time around.
Sounds like he's ready for Vance to leave. I mean, or prepared for him to leave.
Well, certainly. And so here's who the Jets have already put in requests to talk to. Let's show more. Jeez. Okay. Matt Nagy would be second time for him. Bobby Slowick, little shine off his star with the Texans offense taking a step back. Joe Brady, the Bills OC.
Yep, he'll get it.
Arthur Smith, it would be a second time for him.
Yep.
Obviously calling the offense for the Steelers.
Isn't he in his first season with the Steelers? Arthur Smith?
I mean, he was the Falcons head coach a year ago.
I mean,
Aaron Glenn, who has certainly had a couple interviews, including here.
Yep.
And he's a former Jet player, first second round pick, played a long time. And the Saints, where he coached a long time, he's going to be in the mix both those places. Brian Flores, despite suing the league and owners, is getting a request by the Jets. Josh McCown, who's a Vikings QB coach.
Yeah.
And QB coach of the 49ers.
Yeah.
Who I think might be a former teammate of yours.
No,
Brian
Greasy.
You missed him.
Is he in the conversation now?
He's one of the...
They've
talked to Rivera and Mike Vrabel. The story yesterday was Vrabel just did that. I think Diana Rossini said Vrabel took that interview just to hold the Patriots' feet to their fire. Feet to the fire to get them to move on from Gerard Mayo. I don't know how they're going to get around the Rooney Rule.
How many jobs are open
right now? New Orleans, Chicago. Doug Peterson fired today.
Yep.
But they're keeping the GM. I won't be surprised if Vance Joseph interviews there as well. And the Jets, the Giants are keeping their staff. Antonio Pierce.
Oh, Dayball's staying, huh?
Dayball and Shane. John Mara put out a statement that said, while this year was not what anyone expected or hoped, we are going to go forward with this.
They're still banking on him, the Josh Allen years in Buffalo.
I think Dayball might be an okay coach, but his team was terrible this year.
Yeah.
Also, Jeff Ulbrich gets to interview as the interim coach. It's just a courtesy.
Yeah.
Rex Ryan is scheduled this week. Oh, wow. He said on TV or on the radio in New York today that he expects to get that job because he's the best candidate. Okay. So right now the jobs that are open with Antonio Pierce meeting the media, so it doesn't seem like he's getting fired today. I'm guessing Tom Brady talked to Mike Vrabel, who said he's going to the Pats, so he doesn't need to fire Antonio Pierce with Mark Davis's blessing. But so you got Jags, Bears, Saints, Jets are the only four open. You got to keep an eye on the Cowboys. The Bengals fired their defensive coordinator, Lou Amaruno. I think it's however you say his name. He's going to be a defensive coordinator somewhere else. I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Dennis Allen ends up calling the defense for the Bengals and Zach Taylor next year. But
wasn't it great that the Broncos aren't looking for a head coach?
It is great.
They got their guy
or a quarterback.
It's a good problem when your coordinators are coveted and starting to take interviews elsewhere. It means they're doing a good job for you. I just hope that he sticks around. I hope Vance sticks around.
I do too. Gosh.
Because you can build something special with continuity. And if you're bringing in a new defensive coordinator and a new scheme and new guy, it's tough. It's a tough transition. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And right now, it ain't broke.
Yeah, so there's 5 open jobs. Most years they expect it to be anywhere from 6 to 8. I think last year was 8. But I guess we'll see what happens with Mike McCarthy. I'm not sure anybody else is losing a job after hearing that Dayball and Shane are back.
Yeah.
Antonio Pierce meeting the media. That'd be pretty cold-blooded to let him do a press conference and then
Why
fire
keep
him.
Antonio Pierce, though? That's the one that the Raiders were off.
They won the last 2 games, and he said he was more focused on winning games in the future,
Okay.
which is what gets people like.
Isn't that what you should be focused on every week?
Sure, but dropping your draft pick down a couple spots when you could have had a franchise quarterback like a Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward, and now you're totally out of that business.
Yeah, so Shedur's going to go to Tennessee.
Maybe the Browns have the 2nd pick.
You're the only 10 I see.
There's a scenario where Shedeur could be the or Travis Hunter could be a Brown.
Yeah.
The Browns, their GM today said that Deshaun Watson had a setback in his rehab with his Achilles.
Oh.
Even though it wasn't his Achilles, I don't think. He's also hurt his Achilles, maybe.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a mess there. The situation in Jacksonville is interesting because they don't have the worst roster. They spent a bunch of money in free agency. Now there's guys like Christian
They were
Kirk,
good the year before.
Brian Thomas is really good. Yeah. And they have Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to make
He just
of him.
didn't play well this year. And he was injured as well.
And they've got Etienne and Tank Bigsby, and they're okay on the O-line.
And then Doug Peterson's a Super Bowl winning coach, too. It was just kind of a weird thing. I mean,
and they keep Trent Baalke, who has just been has been a cat with 9 lives. He survived all that stuff in San Fran, the Jim Tom Sula thing and all that. And so it's pretty remarkable. Yeah, so 5 head coach openings, 2 offensive coordinator openings. Lou Anarumo, I got his name right. Lou Anarumo and Amaruna.
No, you didn't get it right.
I didn't. I got it close. And then the only GM job that's open right now is the Jets.
Okay.
Which is interesting because a lot of times they'll make those moves. So we will talk more about this throughout the week. They changed the rule, by the way, for people that don't know. Vance Joseph isn't flying to New York. The Jets aren't flying here. They made a league rule, no in-person interviews for anyone employed, not just coaching in the playoffs. So even if your team's out of the playoffs and you have a bye or whatever, like Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, you're not flying to Chicago or New York. They're not flying to meet you. It's 3 hours on Zoom this week. After this round, where certainly some people will be eliminated anyway, then you can start to have in-person interviews next week, but nothing in person. It's slowed the process down to some degree and made it a little more fair kind of across the board instead of teams racing to hire a guy or have to wait and even announce it until later. So
cool.
All that's new.
Well, I mean, that's down the line, and the Broncos now get to, focus on one game at a time here. If the Broncos win 4 straight games, they're Super Bowl champions.
It's insane.
One game at a time.
One game at a time.
And we will take it one day at a time, getting you ready for the game on Sunday in Buffalo. I'll be there to cover it. You guys will be here to talk about it, and we'll do a bunch of fun stuff in terms of keeping you updated throughout the game and live post game and all that. Wednesday, you and I will be rocking on off field. I don't know exactly your travel schedule, but then Friday, I'll be traveling. It'll be all you guys either way. It's gonna be a fun week here. Broncos getting ready for the playoffs. He's Liv Moods. I'm Liv Moods. That's Liv Moods. You can also call him Nate. Call me BK. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time on Off Field here. Oh, we should thank Trusted American Mortgage real quickly, right? Let's thank Trusted American Mortgage. Do you want to thank him for us, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, just shout out to our friends over there. They are helping us save money during this expensive time of the year. You can head to trustedamerican.com to figure out if you qualify for some incentives, lowering your monthly payment, getting a better interest rate. They're here to help you out. That's literally their job. So make sure you check them out, trustedamerican.com, see how they can help you save some money.
Trustedamerican.com.
Yep.
Trustedamerican.com.
We will see you Wednesday on Off Field.
Bye.
Bye.